Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video right here on youtube.com/NoDQCAW. And as always, NoDQ.com, your source for everything related to WrestleMania 29, news, results, and of course, on April 7th, you can check out NoDQ.com for live results coverage. I'll be tweeting about the show as well. With that being said, let's get right down to your questions. First one today comes from Nick Gags. After WrestleMania 29, how many more times do you think that The Rock and John Cena will face each other? I think that regardless of the finish at WrestleMania 29, we will see a third match between these two at some point. Just knowing how WWE operates, I think that they will try to get as much out of the John Cena and Rock feud as possible, so I think it's inevitable that we'll see a third match. If John Cena beats The Rock and gets his redemption, then you have that easy setup for a third match where each guy has a victory over the other, and you can do a third and final rubber match. Now, if The Rock wins and you have John Cena snap and turn heel, which I've talked about this before, I think it's unlikely, but if something like this was to happen, then you also have that setup for a third match where The Rock can come back and try to get revenge on John Cena. But either way, I do see a third match happening. Now, where will it happen? There's been the talk about WrestleMania 30, which I think is unlikely. I think that they've dragged this feud out long enough. It started back at WrestleMania 27. That pay-per-view was built around Rock and Cena, and then WrestleMania 28, and then this year with WrestleMania 29. So I think that if we see the third match, it won't be at WrestleMania 30. Now, The Rock is being advertised for Extreme Rules, so I suppose you could do the third match there, but I would be surprised if they would do that match with just 4 or 5 weeks of build-up. I think if you're going to do a third match, you want to have some period of time to build it up. So if it was me, I would do Rock versus Cena 3 at SummerSlam. I think that would be the best place to do it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yes, I do think we will see a third match, and I think it'll happen sooner than later. All right, this one comes from S2 Charisma. What did you think was Shane McMahon's best match? I'd have to go with his match against Kurt Angle. I agree with you 100%. I think that the match with him and Kurt Angle at King of the Ring 2001 was a spectacular match. I mean, it was really incredible. And I have so much respect for Shane McMahon because he's a guy that is Vince McMahon's son. He doesn't have to go out there and do anything, but he chooses to go out there and put his body on the line to entertain people, and I really admire that. Shane McMahon is a tremendous athlete in his own right, and he took some crazy bumps in that match, going through the glass, taking that super angle slam off the top rope. I mean, Shane McMahon is a real trooper. And I also have to mention, as a close second, the match with Test from SummerSlam 1999. Who would have thought that Shane McMahon and Test would go out there and steal the show? I could tell you, I certainly didn't expect that going in. But Shane McMahon went out there and, he was doing all of his crazy spots, the elbow drop off the top rope through the table on the Test, and just taking all the bumps. Shane McMahon made Test look really good in that match. And I have to give Shane McMahon a lot of credit for going out there and just sacrificing his body. And even though he's not, a wrestler, he goes out there and he takes a lot of punishment. So Shane McMahon definitely deserves some credit for going out there and giving it his all. All right, this one comes from the Cool Guy 69. Hey Aaron, quick question. So you believe that the decline in popularity of Smackdown started with the loss of more major acquisitions such as Triple H, Edge, The Undertaker, etc.? I think that had something to do with it, but there's a lot of reasons why Smackdown has declined in popularity over the years. When Smackdown first started, it was on UPN, so it was on network television, and at the time, it was a priority from WWE. But once there were network changes, UPN became CW, and then WWE moved the show to Sci-Fi. I mean, that was a huge step down, going from network television to Sci-Fi. Another reason was the move to Friday nights. The fact is, a lot of people don't watch television on Friday nights. They're out doing things on Friday nights. So that hurts SmackDown in the ratings. And once that change was made, SmackDown became less important. And as you mentioned here, certainly the absence of a lot of top stars hurt as well. The Undertaker was a big part of SmackDown for years, but once he stopped wrestling a lot, he wasn't there anymore, and that hurt the star power of the show. And also with Edge getting hurt. And, at one point the WWE title was on SmackDown, so because of that, SmackDown was an important show. Once the WWE title went back to Raw, the world title is the secondary title, and therefore SmackDown isn't as much of a priority. And I think the biggest reason as of late would be Raw going to 3 hours and the whole Super Show concept with all the SmackDown stars being on Raw. Because Raw is the most watched show, the main angles are being done on Raw now, and the secondary angles are being done on SmackDown. And now you have all these clips from Raw just being aired and repeated on SmackDown. So yeah, it's unfortunate that SmackDown has had this fall from grace, and maybe at some point WWE will try to build up SmackDown again and make it important. But the fact is, right now, the focus is on the 3-hour Raws and getting the highest ratings possible for Raw. That's what WWE's priority is right now. All right, this one comes from the IWC. Hey Aaron, if you could name one match that should have main evented WrestleMania but didn't, which would you choose? For me, it would be Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker WrestleMania 25. I agree with you on that one. I think that the match that should close WrestleMania should be the match that people are going to be the most excited about and the match that they anticipate the most. But sometimes it's really hard to predict which match people are going to react to the most. Like, for instance, WrestleMania 18, I don't think WWE quite expected Hogan to get the reaction that he got. I think people knew that Hogan would get a big response in Toronto, but I just don't think people thought he was going to get this huge, over-the-top reaction that he ended up getting. And I think that if they could do it again, they would have put Hogan versus Rock on last. I mean, to a lot of people in that crowd, that was the main event. And after that, people didn't really care about the other matches. They didn't care about Triple H versus Chris Jericho. I mean, they put all of their emotion into Hogan versus The Rock. And, WrestleMania 27 is another example. Undertaker and Triple H. I mean, that was the match that people were the most emotionally invested in. And after that match, they didn't care. They didn't care about seeing John Cena versus The Miz. They were exhausted. They didn't want to see that match. They were ready to go home. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to say, and I think that those 3 WrestleManias would be the best examples of it, but you just don't know sometimes. All right, this one comes from Grayus94. Hey Aaron, in my opinion, the last 2 Extreme Rules pay-per-views were better than WrestleMania. My question is, do you think Extreme Rules will be better than WrestleMania again this year? I think it's hard to say. The one thing about last year's Extreme Rules was that it had the hot Chicago crowd, and the crowd really helped that show. I think by nature, Extreme Rules has an advantage over WrestleMania because by nature you have all the matches being Extreme Rules, and you have the stipulations added on, and most of the matches are rematches from WrestleMania, so you have the mindset going in that these matches are going to be the final match of a feud, so you're going to pull out all the stops for the final match to end the feud on a high note. But we really shouldn't be thinking this way. I mean, WrestleMania should be the biggest show of the year and should have the best matches of the year. And that's a problem with doing an Extreme Rules, an Extreme Stipulation-themed pay-per-view right after WrestleMania, because you really don't want to have a pay-per-view top WrestleMania. WrestleMania should be the match where you have all the extreme stipulations and all the craziness, because it is WrestleMania. It is the biggest event of the year. But yeah, I do think that the crowd played a big role in last year's Extreme Rules as well. So I really don't know if this year's Extreme Rules will top WrestleMania, and I hope not. I think WrestleMania should, nothing should be able to top WrestleMania. Alright, that'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. Tell a friend on Facebook or Twitter. Keep spreading the word about NoDQ&A video. I appreciate all the support from you guys, and I will see you next time for more NoDQ&A video.